This conference will now be recorded.
Yeah, hello everyone. So we have moved on from the PowerPoint presentation to MS Word document because we are focusing on the Capstone project as of now. Okay, so in the last video, we have had a brief introduction about what is a problem statement that needs to be looked into in this project. So we saw that the client is, again, it's an example, it's not a real-time project, but we are considering client to be a major bank like Citibank. And within the retail banking group, there's a particular issue that the bank has identified that the customers are spending on an average around 2 minutes for doing any ATM transaction. And now what they wanted to do is to reduce that particular time, which is nothing but the average time, to less than 20 seconds. And I had asked, like, you come up with two, three approaches at least, which you think can be taken up by the bank to reach to this particular, solution that they want. I hope you have put in some time and thought through this. You might have, come up with some different ideas because at the end, every problem statement might have different solutions or different approaches. It need not be that one solution is the best solution. But for the sake of simplicity, let's look at one specific approach, and then we'll drill down. As a BA, what are we supposed to do? We have a particular solution to be delivered, and you drill down, you get into further details, and document it, so on and so forth, right? So let's do that. So what is the solution for this one? What is the approach that can be taken here? So first of all, if the time has to reduce for a particular process, we need to understand where does this process start and where does this process end, what are the steps involved, and is there any possibility of eliminating some steps in between or automating the process in a way to quicken the time taken for each of those steps, so on and so forth, right? So let's do the same thing here. A typical customer, when he or she goes to make an ATM transaction, what are the different steps involved? If you look at it, first of all, the customer has to assume the customer is in front of the ATM machine right now. Okay, so what's the first thing? You see the welcome screen on the ATM. Okay, so you select the cash withdrawal process. No, instead of that, actually, what you do, first of all, you need to log in. You enter your PIN four digit number, right? Four-digit PIN. Okay, you do this, and after login, what do? You have to select the service. What do I mean by the service? Like, you have multiple options, right? It says, do you want to do cash withdrawal, fast withdrawal option? Do you want to change your PIN? Do you want to request a checkbook? There'll be a lot of those options. I need to select the cash withdrawal, and after selecting that, you need to enter the amount, right? So you enter the amount, then it may ask you to enter the denominations. What do you mean by denomination? It could say that, okay, if you want to withdraw, say, 2000 rupees, then how many 1000 rupee notes do you want? How many 500 rupee notes do you want? And then it has to check the balance, right? The machine has to check whether you hold that much amount in your account, right? After checking the balance, what should happen? The cash to be dispensed, not dispersed. Okay, so the cash has to be dispensed to you, then generate printout, or the slip, generate the slip, withdrawal slip. Okay, so if you see roughly, I mean, maybe if you're talking about an international bank or some other hi-fi ATM, then maybe some of these steps may not be there. Some other normal banks may have one or two additional steps, but typically on average, these are the things that you get to do at a particular ATM machine when you have to withdraw the money. Okay. Now, so we have identified how many steps are there. One, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. Eight steps are there. So out of these eight steps, can you eliminate any of these steps? or can you make the time that goes behind any of these steps a little faster? For example, welcome screen is there. Without welcome screen, can you directly get into login? And here login entering 4-digit pin may take more time. Can you reduce that 4-digit pin to 1 digit or 2 digit? Or select the service. Maybe you initially itself put cash withdrawal as the default service because that is what most of the customers use. Like this, you need to like look into each and every thing, every option. And it need not be that every suggestion that you give to the stakeholders would be right away accepted. For example, I was saying login, why to have 4-digit pin, can you reduce it to 2 digit? It doesn't make sense actually, right? So that it doesn't work that way. It has to be secure enough. But when you think through, when you brainstorm, you come up with different options and different suggestions can be given, and out of that whichever works can be picked up. So these are all the ways. But the thing that you realize is no matter how much ever you reduce the time taken for all of these steps, okay, you can still not reach the target of less than 20 seconds, right? That is what you are trying to achieve. And that is like roughly I've seen, right? It is 1/6 of the actual average time it takes. And again, why does it take 2 minutes? You might say, no, Ranjit, you're overestimating the time. It doesn't take 2 minutes. I withdraw money within 1 minute. But think about this time being the average time. When I say average time, maybe someone who's a teenager who always does the transactions on ATM might do it in a jiffy. But when you talk about some people who use it rarely, or some senior citizens, they might actually take more time at each and every step of this particular transaction. So you're talking about the time taken by them versus the time taken by someone who is very quick at it, and then taking the average of it. That is what takes it around 2 minutes. And it does take, if you split this and you see roughly how much time it might take at each and every step, it might sum up to 2 minutes. Okay. So now how do you reduce this to less than 20 seconds? One thing that can happen is if you can uh, remove any of these steps altogether. Okay. In such a way, okay, first of all, if you can remove any of these steps, okay, out of these 8 steps, if you can remove some of these steps, for example, login, if you can remove this step altogether, the entering the pin itself may take around 5 to 10 seconds. For you, you might say 4 days I can enter very fast, but typically again, let's say it takes around 10 seconds. If you remove this step altogether, so you're reducing 10 seconds right away over there. Entering the amount. Maybe sometimes you think about it. Sometimes people come with pre-decided that I have to enter this amount. Whatever it is, let's say it takes around 15 seconds to enter the amount. You're entering 4-digit or 5-digit minimum, right? When you're withdrawing the money, usually. So here, if you can remove this step altogether, you're reducing another 10-15 seconds. If you can, remove these denominations, people calculate this, that, and also that might take around say 15 to 20 seconds. You remove this step, you're removing another 20 seconds. Now you might say, Ranjit, it's very easy to say remove this step, remove this step, but how do you do that? Can you eliminate this step altogether? So it is possible. So what you do here is, so these are the steps that are involved in the process. Now, if there is a possibility of eliminating all of this step, any of these steps altogether, you can achieve the target of less than 20 seconds. So what Citibank people have thought through and they have come back with is that, okay, we want a software application to be built in such a way that all the inputs required from the customer to withdraw the money will be provided by the customer even before the customer steps into the ATM center, starts facing the ATM machine. What do you mean by that? So let's say there is a process built in such a way that customer has already informed Citibank that I want to withdraw 2,000 rupees from the ATM. Okay, and I want these denominations like one uh, currency note of 1,000 rupees and two currency notes of 500 rupees. This is what I need to withdraw. If this information is already given to the bank by the customer, then what happens? Customer is coming for cash withdrawal. Customer wants to withdraw this much amount. Is this balance available in this account or not? All that can be done even before the customer is in front of the ATM machine. And when the customer goes there, he has to just maybe do the remaining steps and get the money, generate the slip, and move out. That makes sense. Okay, so by doing this, what you're doing, you're eliminating all of these steps and making sure the customer is doing only the most important work of getting the money from the ATM and moving out. So that is how you can actually achieve this less than 20 seconds. You got the point? So how now the next question is, how is it possible? How can a customer inform the bank beforehand that I'm going to withdraw this much amount? So here comes the solution of using a mobile app. Now you might say, Ranjit, you have typical banking apps, right? Wherein you use it for all the services, like you can check your balance, you can see your credit card details which you have with that bank, and all the other options. You can transfer money, add beneficiaries. Yeah, fine. But that app is there. This is like an additional app. Okay, so this is like an additional app which the bank wants to be created. The purpose of this app is for the customer to provide information saying that this is the amount that I want to withdraw. Okay, I hope you're getting the point over here. So what you're doing is you're providing information beforehand to the bank saying that I want to withdraw this amount in these denominations. So that is going to reduce these steps. In fact, if we go further down into the solutioning, you'll realize that in fact it might take much less than 20 seconds to withdraw the money, because the end goal will be that you need to just enter a security pin, and then you get the money. That will be the end of it. So we are going to see how to make it happen. So I hope you got the solution right now. So what we're doing here is we are telling that uh, the solution over here is to develop, which means again, design, develop, test, and all. Develop a mobile app for the bank, which allows the customer to provide the details about how much money to be withdrawn from the bank. Okay, so that will eliminate a lot of these steps, and it makes it possible to withdraw money as soon as possible from the machine, from the ATM machine. So now you have got the solution. Now this is the step which is usually already reached to by the bank or by the client even before approaching any software company saying that this is what we want. What do I mean by that? So whatever this particular thing of brainstorming and all these things were done, that would have been done by the client already. Most of the times, I'm not saying every time, but most of the times, they already come up with a solution saying that this is what we want. And we as a business analyst have to start our journey from that particular step. So right now what happened is, you have a client, you have a problem statement, you have a solution for it. Now developing that solution and delivering it to the client is what you start your work with. Okay, so now you have to think as a business analyst and come up with the set of questions which will make sense, and from there each and every question will bring in more and more information, and you do a little bit more analysis into each and every solution or every answer given to you, and then that brings in even more details, so on and so forth. That's how you build the entire solution. Okay, I hope things are clear till now. Okay, now what you're going to do is, you have the idea of what is supposed to be delivered here. Now you need to come up with the next set of questions. Okay, now it's a mobile app, but is that enough? Now if you go to your developers and say that what, the client needs a mobile app, build it and give, it's not going to work. You need to have more information about how this particular things should still work. So you have to come up with a basic set of questions. So this is your next task. Come up with a basic list of questions which you should ask the stakeholders. So imagine that you're part of this project, and you have been given this information by the project manager about the client, about the problem statement and all, and you have your very first workshop with your stakeholders tomorrow. In that case, you need to come up with a basic set of questions which you want to ask, and you want to initiate the entire conversation about this particular solution. Okay, so come up with a basic list of questions, and after that you can start watching the next video. Okay, so we'll stop here. Thanks everyone.